Great. Appreciate everybody coming out. Hope everybody's having an awesome week. Obviously, February signing day is a little bit different than years past. With the signing period in December was with Robbie Lyles. Many of you know Robbie from his time here before. I was with Robbie last night at an event in Charleston, and we were laughing about how in February, the old signing days when guys like Sterling signed, you were in here early, and his job was to put the paper in the fax machine and make sure it was ready to go and get the biscuits in and all that stuff as well. I'm not like that anymore. That's what December is now. But certainly a lot has changed with our program since the December signing period with the young men that we've added to our program via the transfer portal. So excited about those guys as well and the way that we've improved our roster. It's a really good group of guys that we've brought in, and coming out of the December signing period, knowing where we were and some issues that we had at certain positions that we knew we needed to take care of, we were very strategic in how we did that with attacking the guys that were in the transfer portal at certain positions and making sure, one, they're great players, but two, they're the kind of people that we want to bring into this program as well, and had some fantastic visits with all these guys, and fortunate that we've been able to bring these guys into the program, and excited about the impact they've made on our program already and what they'll continue to do going forward as well. So I'll let you guys talk about or ask about any of those guys individually as we go forward, but really excited about the group. It's good to be back in the office from being on the road the last couple weeks. Certainly recruiting is the lifeblood of any program, so I love going out to high schools and love, being able to go into homes and sit down with young men. But the best part of the job is being here in the building with our guys, and have missed being around them. So it's great to be back and get entrenched with them here in February. They've been with Coach Day and the weight room, the strength and conditioning staff since they came back early in January. And then they're doing an awesome job in there. Really excited about the work they're putting in, and it's great that we're now back as coaches and have a chance to jump into the middle of that and get back into football. As we go through the month of February, and then gearing up for spring practice, which is right around the corner. Practice number 1 on March 15th, that Tuesday. So a lot of work that we have to get done as a football program, football team before then, from a self-scout standpoint, going back, reviewing last season, then preparing for spring practice. We have a lot that we have to get done here in the next month as we continue to recruit as well and take advantage of this awesome momentum and awesome energy that we have in this program since the bowl game and since what we did last season as well. Excited that we've been able to add a guy like Sterling Lucas to our program. I know I talked about him the last time we met when he had first gotten hired, but he wasn't here, that day as well. So it's the first time you guys are having a chance to visit with him. But I was excited about this hire when we decided to hire Sterling, and then after having a chance to be around him the last couple of weeks on the road recruiting, even more excited. I know Coach White is very fired up about what he'll bring to the table, what Sterling will bring to the table from a football standpoint with his knowledge and the systems that he's been around in the NFL. But he's hungry and eager to recruit and has done a great job on the road. I know Coach White put it out on Twitter. We were with him in Jacksonville about 2 weeks ago, and he told him that was training day for Sterling. So we flew down there, got down to Lake City, Florida about 8 o'clock in the morning, and spent all day driving around Florida, finished up in Jacksonville, and then I flew back to Columbia, and Coach White drove somewhere, and Sterling drove somewhere. So it was like sending your son off to college, watching him drive off on his own to go recruit by himself the next day. But he survived those last 2 weeks, and Coach White trained him well. But in all seriousness, he'll be a great resource for the players that we have in the program and a great recruiter. South Carolina native, Orangeburg Wilkinson grad, and one of the ones that we let get away, one of the very few we let get away back in high school when he chose to go to a different school to play. But certainly fired up that he and his family are back in Columbia right now. And then before we get into any questions, I know it's come out with Coach Kimmery and Connor leaving the program. Wish those guys well. Those guys are leaving on fantastic terms here at South Carolina. Eric and I have been talking about this potential opportunity for the last 2.5 weeks that he had, and I know that wasn't an easy decision for him. I'll let him talk about his situation more when he's ready to do that. But, I can say that it wasn't an easy decision for him. He loves this place, but what a great opportunity for he and his family, and excited for him, thankful for him and the impact he made on our program in year one. I know how much he loves Columbia. I know how much he loves the University of South Carolina, and excited for the next chapter with him. And like I told him yesterday, he and his family, they're Gamecocks, and they're always welcome here. And then same thing with Connor also. This is something that Connor and I have been talking about for, I don't know, week and a half or so. Also an opportunity for Connor to Connor's brilliant and will be successful in anything that he wants to do, and this is an opportunity for him that's a new challenge outside the athletics world. That was something that he was in a little bit before he came to work here, at Carolina, and an opportunity for him from a financial standpoint, long term, everything. It was a great situation for him. And same thing with Connor. Like he asked, "Can I come around regularly?" And I said, yeah, absolutely. I mean, to me, the only difference is he's just not going to have an office downstairs, but he's still going to be around here a lot, still be around our players a lot, like I want all of our former players to be able to do as well. So Connor, no greater Gamecock than Connor Shaw, and hate that he's not going to be downstairs next to Derek Moore in that office each and every day, but love both those guys and wish them well, and excited for their futures as well. So with that, and before we get to Sterling, if anybody's got any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Shane, in terms of the class, I know the 7 of the freshmen early enrolled. Are all the transfers here? And then with your PWOs, how many of those guys can come here right away and go through spring?
Yes. Every transfer is here except Austin Stogner, and that's just because he's finishing up some classes at Oklahoma, but he won't be here. Austin won't be for spring practice physically, but he'll be able to come around, and be here. He just won't be in school here at Carolina. He needed, I think, 4 classes to graduate from Oklahoma, and I didn't want him to get that far and not be able to graduate. And then some of the walk-ons that we've added are here right now, and then the rest of those guys will be some of the ones from last weekend that made announcements will be here in June for summer school.
Shane, I know every situation is unique, especially with on-field roles as well. Talking to Eric, when you get to a time of the year like this, the NFL is going on, there's a lot of head coaching change, right? More this time than there's been in years past. As a college head coach, are you constantly thinking about that there could be possibilities? And obviously with Eric, it's a high school situation, but trying to monitor that, and do you kind of think ahead sometimes so that you are prepared if an on-field coach does decide to leave?
Yeah, you always have to be. I remember when I got hired last year, there was another SEC head coach that I talked to and about this time, and he's like, really from the end of the bowl game until right now, it's like the worst time because you're constantly getting phone calls and things like that. And this year's been no different. And it's a good thing that we got a bunch of great coaches that people want to hire because, people want to talk about a couple of the guys that are leaving for great opportunities. But what doesn't get talked about is the amount of guys on our staff that have turned down jobs to stay here for a lot more money that they were getting offered. I've got 2 coaches on the offensive staff that have turned down multiple jobs in the last 3 weeks. One in the ACC, one in the SEC, one in the Big 12. I got another coach that's turned down a job in the ACC for more money than what they were making here at the time. So it's part of it, and we've got a fantastic staff, and that's evident that, people are trying to hire Eric Kimbrey, and people outside of athletics are trying to hire Connor Shaw, and those are just some of the ones that are fresh in my mind because of the last couple of weeks. And not every one, not every one of those situations comes across my desk as well. I'm sure a lot of our coaches have gotten calls from schools and they just say, no, I'm not interested. But, those are 3 that I'm just using an example of 3 coaches here in the last 2 weeks that have turned down multiple jobs, to stay. So that's part of it. And I want to make this place a awesome place to work. And Columbia is a great place to live, and I want this to be an awesome environment for these coaches and their families where they don't want to leave. But certainly I don't ever want to keep a guy here that has opportunities to advance his career and do something better for their family as well. And I tell them that all the time. I mean, I'll pick up the phone and call anybody they want me to call for a situation that's better for them, promotion, whatever. But that's just part of being a head coach. Sterling's coming from the NFL. Well, those guys are under contract and they can't leave unless they go get a head coaching job. Basically, well, it's not necessarily like that here. I mean, you're under contract, but you have a little bit more flexibility. But again, we want to make this a great place to work, and I'm thankful that our administration gives me the resources to make this a great place to work and a great environment to be a part of also.
Shane, has it been difficult at all to get accustomed to this new rhythm of recruiting, December, transfers, February? And is there anything about this process going forward you think maybe could be streamlined or changed?
Yeah, it's certainly different. Last year was different because I was getting hired and I'm trying to figure out what's going on in this building, and we weren't able to go on the road recruiting last year because of COVID restrictions and the dead period. This year you're able to go on the road recruiting in December and January, but then you're also balancing, the transfer portal. And normally, when that, I think we talked about it in the last time in that last press conference we had, normally the bowl game ends and you get a little bit of a chance to breathe and relax before you go back out on the road recruiting and before your players come back. Well, this year you can't, because immediately transfer portals, that don't slow down. That only picks up right after the bowl game. So that part's been an adjustment. And certainly, like everything, there's ways to make it better. I've read a lot of the articles you guys have read, or probably some have even written just about the portal. And I know there's talk about windows of when you can enter the portal and things like that. So we'll see going forward, ways to make it better. And but it's part of it, and it's never ending, and it's just one of the million things that you're balancing: the portal, your own roster, high school recruiting, your staff. It's just it's an endless ball of fun.
Shane, speaking of your staff, in terms of filling Eric's role, what are you looking for at that spot in particular, and as a timeline with recruiting, with signing day done and spring not starting? What's that timeline look like for you?
Yeah, as quick as possible. We don't want to rush it for sure. And as you can imagine, I mean, as soon as that news broke, like I said, I was in Charleston at an event last night and got back, and that news came out, and I haven't even dared look at my phone since then because of how many missed calls and text messages I have. So there's no lack of interest in people that want to come here. But I'd like to do it as soon as possible, but also want to make sure that we get the right fit in here as well. But today is signing day. The coaches are going to have a long weekend off, a little break and a couple of days next week before we get back in here. But once we get back in here at the beginning of next week, we're really diving into, like I said, review from last season, and then what are we going to be about offensively, defensively, and special teams going into spring practice. So, it's tough when you have a coaching change because now you've got to also get that guy caught up in what you're doing, from a systematic standpoint. So the quicker we can get somebody in here, the better. And to answer what you're looking for, just somebody that fits what this program's about, the culture that we have here. Great recruiter, great person, and great coach, somebody that can continue to add to the foundation that Eric laid with the tight ends this year and continue to make that position even better.
Shane, as far as transfers go, you guys went out and signed a lot of guys that at least on paper seem like instant impact guys offensively. Just what do you kind of see from that group of guys, and as far as bringing transfers along, I guess what's kind of goes into that over the next few weeks and getting those guys into the system and up to date with the playbook and everything kind of from there?
Yeah, really just that. One, I feel like we did impact guys, and we got some great returning players on offense, already. But you guys have heard me say it a million times, and I'll continue to say it for a long, long time, that we're about competition, and the more we can create competition at certain positions, the better. And we did that, at the running back position. We love the running backs we have coming back with Marshawn, Juju, and Rashad. But that's a position you need more than three. And we've been able to go out and add some impact guys at that position. Wide receiver, continuing to increase the competition there. Everybody knows what Josh Vann did this year, and to carry on as he came on throughout the year as well, but continuing to increase the competition at that position, tight end position, quarterback position. And that's the biggest thing, is just get those guys up to speed. They're hungry. I mean, they jumped right in, and the last of them got here this week. Spencer got here Sunday night and started workouts in the weight room Tuesday with Coach Day. So he's in, but, I just saw him down the hall. He's in there meeting with the offensive coaches and kind of getting up to speed on the offense and watching video and things like that. And he texted me last night about how great day one went and how much football he learned in just one day here, which was pretty cool to hear him say as well. But that's the main thing, getting them. They're jumping right into the weight room, physically get them going, mentally get them going with what we're allowed to do. The NCAA allows us time for football this time of year, so that's good. So get caught up to speed mentally. And then, the more they can just get indoctrinated in what we're doing, weight room, training room, nutrition, academics, throwing out there on their own, things like that.
Thank you. You announced 21 signees. Can you explain in kind of simple terms for the simpletons here what your numbers actually look like with the transfers counting, and do you still have some scholarships available for this class? What are your plans for that if that's the case?
Yeah, I wish I could put it in simple terms for the simpletons. Is that the word? I'm still trying to figure it out, Phil. I'll be honest with you. I've got all the scholarship numbers on my desk, and it looks like a bunch of hieroglyphics and all that stuff that I put on there. I got so much writing and things like that. We do have the ability to add some more players if we chose to. We're no one that we're actively recruiting right now as we speak for this year's class. I'm sure after spring practice across the country, you'll see some people that enter the transfer portal after spring practice because they maybe find out that the roles on their team coming out of spring practice aren't quite what they want it to be. Hopefully that doesn't happen to us, but, it's just the way it is nowadays. We may have some attrition here. I don't know. I hope not. But we'll see what happens after spring practice and what happens between now and then. But we do have some flexibility if we need to add some more players to the roster.
Hey, Coach, with Spencer now on campus, just how important was it to get him here early? I mean, especially as a quarterback going into spring ball.
Yeah, huge because of that, the quarterback position, just because it's such a, leadership position and developing that chemistry with the receivers and tight ends and running backs and the offensive line and the entire team. And then just for any position, Mike, just to be able to, get guys here and one of the reasons we had the success that we had last year was because so many of these transfers came in and we were able to develop a really tight team. By the time we got to the season, they got tighter as the year went on. And the more time that you have together, the better chances you have of doing that. And, I think Tyrese Ross came in the summertime. But other than that, I think all the transfers that we played with last year were here for spring practice. And we're essentially in the same boat this year with other than Austin. But like I told David, Austin's going to be here quite a bit during spring practice just on his own as well to be around the guys. So the earlier you can get them in, the better. And it's awesome having Spencer and all these guys here right now as well, where you have, 7 months until you start practice.
Obviously, Drake Davis announced yesterday he was stepping away, and I think Colby Fields is the most recent guy to go into the portal. Have there been any other players, whether it's them stepping away or any other reason, who are no longer with the team right now that haven't been announced or anything like that?
Yeah, I know Drake announced that one. We got a couple other situations that are fluid that I don't want to speak for them until I just make sure that they're okay with me talking about it in this, environment. That a couple of guys are trying to make some decisions. So, nothing that I really want to get into right now. So I'm not trying to dodge the question. I just, out of respect for those guys, I don't want to come in here and say anything about anybody else that is stepping away from football without talking to them before I announce it to you guys.
Yeah, and with a couple of specific of the transfer guys, Lavoisier in particular, obviously unique situation with him being committed here than playing at Georgia. And I guess what's that going to be like for him making the transition back to running back, then specifically with Antoine Wells as well, what do y'all think he can add to the
Yeah,
receivers?
with Lavoisier, it was just wanting to play running back, and I don't want to speak for the coaches at Georgia, but I mean, I think he was going to move back to running back at Georgia. And I wasn't here when he was getting recruited the first time here, but I know he loved this place and still has a lot of ties here in Columbia as well. I don't want to get into his personal business, but his girlfriend's in Columbia, so we had a heck of a ace in the hole with that one as well. That she was the best recruiter, knowing she was living in Columbia as well, which we all wish every recruit was that easy. But and I hope she doesn't mind that I just announced that here in the press conference, their relationship. But he was, that was a natural fit because of that. And he loved this place, I know, coming out of high school. And I don't know what all happened leading up to signing day, but we talked about it a little bit. But he's a guy that, man, he's got great speed. And you watch his high school tape, I mean, it's impressive, just the speed and explosion that he puts on tape. And then with Juice Wells, he's went to James Madison and obviously had a great career there. He's a graduate of Highland Springs, which my mom is a Highland Springs High School, Virginia graduate as well, from the late 60s. But she's a proud Springer, and Juice's high school coach was in school with Torian and I at Virginia Tech, who I've known for, since 1995, I guess. So I know what the players that come out of that program are about. So there was a natural connection already. And when Juice went in the portal, we talked, and he had no shortage of schools that were interested in him. But he came down here and loved it. And I just love, he said in the recruiting process, he's like, Juice, said, I want to go somewhere where I'm going to be coached really, really hard and held accountable and pushed to be the best I can be. And he has got a strong work ethic and has got a great mentality, for that position that will make Josh and all of our receivers better.
Shane, obviously Eric and Connor have their reasons. For people outside of this room, though, they might be looking at it and thinking, because they're alums, might be panicking a little. What would you say to those people about maybe trying to make something more than this is?
Just that, like I said a minute ago, we got a lot of people that are choosing to stay here, and this wasn't like Connor and Eric leaving here because they're unhappy. Let me say that again. This 1 trillion%, they are not leaving here because they don't like working here. It wasn't easy decisions, and it was emotional meetings with those guys, and I hate to see them go. And like I said, we got so many great things going on here in this program, and if people didn't enjoy working here, you wouldn't have had the amount of people that we've had on this staff that have turned down jobs throughout the Power Five schools across the country that turned down jobs from those guys to stay here. And I hate to see 2 former players walk out of here. But again, it's a situation that it's a better situation they feel like for their families and their lives and careers, and ultimately I want to support them in any way with that. And I'm sure Connor and Eric will speak about it publicly, but I would imagine they'd have nothing but amazing things to say about this place and how hard it was for them to leave it as well.
Hey, Coach, I just left DeQuandre Smith's signing day and everything. He's really excited about coming here. What were some of the things that you saw on him that made you say, okay, yeah, we want to recruit this guy and turn him into defensive?
Hold off on that one. I can't get into that one just yet.
Can't.
So
okay.
Not yet. So.
Oh yeah, Les not.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
Shane, how's Luke's recovery going, and what will he be able to do, if anything, at spring?
Yeah, he's coming along great. I met with Clint Haggard, our head trainer, earlier this afternoon, and Luke's working really hard and is on a great track, to be healthy, and we're hopeful that he'll be able to do basically everything in spring practice. Hopefully, we're still, a little over a month away, but he's on track to a lot farther along than maybe what we anticipated him being at this point, and he looks great. When I see him walking around the building, I forget that he's rehabbing an injury still because he is moving around so well down there.
And forgot to ask about Christian Bill Smith. What can you tell us about him.
Yeah, obviously the success that Wake Forest had last season was speaks for itself, and the fact that he was a regular contributor and a key contributor at running back for them. And I talked to some coaches at Wake Forest that I've got great relationships with when he was in the portal, and the thing they kept talking about is what a leader he is and what a dominant special teams player he is, and I know they're really going to miss him because of the impact he made on special teams. So I think Christian's a mature, older guy that wanted to give himself an opportunity to play somewhere else this upcoming season. That's got a lot of experience and brings experience to that room, for sure. Because Juju and Marshawn and Rashad, I mean, they're still young guys, and getting Christian in here gives us the opportunity to get an older guy in here, really smart, and has played a lot of football at a high level.
Shane, on the running backs and I guess the quarterback situation too, just how do you kind of plan to manage those things a little bit going into the spring? And I guess for quarterback, how do you kind of plan to pick a starter and going forward with that? And then running back, you got, probably 4, 5, 6 guys that you feel pretty decent about. Just how do you kind of plan on dealing with that?
Yeah, good question. That stuff when we get back in next week, literally, I'm not trying to avoid the question. We brought these guys in and hardly seen the coaches because we've been all over the country recruiting, and then we get back together on Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays for official visit weekends and junior days, and that's all recruiting, and then we go right back out on the road. So when we get back in the office next week, we'll really sit down and figure out how to make sure, because we've got obviously Spencer coming in. We've got to continue to get Luke better at quarterback. We've got to continue to get Colton better at quarterback. Tanner's not here, but Braden Davis is here, and getting him experience and seeing what these guys can do. So finding a way that, to maximize their reps and at running back as well to get a great evaluation on all of these guys and what they can do for us. We'll have a great plan, for that. And we've got 15 spring practices to do that. And then also, we're limited in what we can do in the walkthroughs before spring practice, but that's a great opportunity to be able to evaluate guys as well. And then also what they're doing in the weight room right now and being able to get down there and be involved with that. You have a chance to find out a lot about them physically too.
Shane, 2 things. I guess first, I know things can pop up, but do you anticipate any more staff changes right now before spring or anything like that?
I don't. Okay. Now I can walk down to my office and that's changed. I don't know, but I don't. I know we got a bunch of guys that want to be here, and we're trying to continue to make the situations right for those guys to be here. And like I said, I've got one coach that's turned down 3 jobs just himself in a couple weeks, and who's to say if he gets offered a 4th one that he may decide that's the one, but I hope not. But no, I think you never say never, but nothing that I'm aware of anybody that may be leaving.
And I guess what kind of impact do you think a guy like Terrell and Devani will bring to that defense, losing a guy like Jalen and JJ from that?
I think Devani for sure, just the leadership back there. Everybody I talk to in this building, Colin, talks about just what a pro he is and how awesome he is and everything, the way he just handles his business in the weight room, in nutrition. I think he's just a natural leader that's just got that it factor about him, and I'm really fired up about him. Everybody raves about him that's around him already as well, and then the same thing with Terrell as well, guy that had a fantastic freshman season in Raleigh. And that we were able to get down here, and he brings great, for what we do defensively. Schematically, it's a little bit different than what NC State was doing, and not to speak for him, but I think he felt like the fit of what we do here fits his game a little bit better, and he's a guy with us losing JJ and Aaron Sterling that comes in and gives us a unique ability to rush the passer and bring some athleticism to that edge position as well.
Shane, as collegiate coaches, I'm curious, when you've got guys like Spencer Rattler who are, on way too early preseason Heisman favorite list, and these other guys that are on potential, preseason player of the year list and things like that, as well as coming off a really good year, how do you quantitate positive momentum and, I guess, publicity in a maybe that's not the right word, but how do you qualitate that, and how do you use that to your advantage?
With these guys coming in, mainly is what you're saying?
I guess program perception.
Yeah. I think the fact that those young men are choosing our program, I think is the biggest eye opener, and we certainly want to capitalize on it. And we love the young men that we have in our program, and then it's awesome that we've been able to add an outside group of people into the program as well that want to be a part of what we're doing in here is the biggest statement. And I think just the fact that young men across the country see that a lot of these players that we're talking about today could have chosen anywhere in the country and chose to come here is the biggest statement, and is an eye-opener for a lot of guys, for other transfers, but then also for young men in high school that are sitting there saying it as well, that see the excitement and the momentum coming off the bowl game, the people that we've added to the program. There's a lot of good going on right now. We certainly want to capitalize that as much as we can, but also understand how much work we have in front of us as well to get to that next level also.
Shane, with this offseason, I mean, you guys were able to, pick up a lot of different running backs, whether it be through the transfer portal, whether it be through just signing. What is your plan? Do you have a vision of how you plan on using all that talent there? And, what would you kind of tell people on the outside looking in? Because they're probably like, what's going on with all these running backs?
Yeah, running back wise, you can never have enough of them because that is a physical position, especially in this league. For sure. And I don't think – now we've added some – it looks different because, we've got, I think, like 5 on scholarship now. That's pretty standard, I would say, at most places that I've been. You've got 5 on scholarship if you can, because those guys are going to be core guys on special teams, and that's a physical position that you need some durability there. But then we also had the opportunity to add some walk-ons at that position that are fantastic players. And to me, you can never have enough – great players, and that's a position because of the body type. They can be great running backs. You need more than one, like I said. They're going to be great special teams players, being able to cover kicks and things like that as well, return kicks like Juju did last year. And then, playing running back, you need different skill sets. Some guys may be a little bit better that you trust more in pass protection. Some guys are a little bit better in the passing game. A lot of the things we did with Juju last year, where we used him on a lot of the jet sweeps and things like that. Line him up at quarterback, line Kevin Harris up at quarterback. So I'd say going back to last year, Mike, just like we talked about going into the spring and then coming out of the spring, figuring out who our playmakers are, and let's find the best ways to get those guys the ball. And we've added pieces to every position on offense. And as we go into spring, let's see what we do well and then continue to tweak that, as we go through spring practice and out of spring practice, and be able to put together a scheme that allows us to, accentuate the positives of all of our guys and get our best players, out there on the field. But it's not as, I don't think you can ever have too many at one position without a doubt. It's a physical league, man. And we saw with injuries last year, I mean, we played, 3 quarterbacks because of injuries. Like, you can't have enough depth. And if you got a chance to add a great player that's willing to walk on and come in, not be on scholarship, that we think can help us, you'd be an idiot not to want to do that. It's good to see you back, John.
Thank you very much.
We missed you, my man.
I appreciate that.
You bet.
If I'm interpreting the hieroglyphics correctly, I think you'll have 2 more spots left for 2022.
You probably know better than I do, as much as you study it and know about it. But I believe you would be right in saying that we have 2 initials left based on the 7 additionals that you're able to get and all that as well.
Now,
Very good.
Do you go into spring practice, or do you have an idea now of how you want to address those 2 spots with regard to position, or do you want to see how spring practice plays out versus who hits the portal?
Yeah, good question. I think a lot of it has to do with spring practice and kind of where we are coming out of it, as a football team. And God forbid, you hope you don't have any injuries and things like that on your own program during spring practice that affects them going into the fall and whatnot as well. So I think it's one of those you'll never turn down a great player at any position in my mind. Certainly there's some positions that you look at and say, as we go a year from now when we're sitting in this room, certain positions are going to look a lot different probably because of the experience or eligibility level, at certain positions. Offensive line, we got some older guys there, and you need to be thinking about 2023 and 2024 as well as you continue to build the roster for the 2022 team as well. So you've got certain positions in mind, but to me it's more, let's see where we are coming out of spring, depth-wise, personnel-wise, and what and then who may or may not be available. And we may not, use it on anybody. I just don't want to throw out a scholarship just to be throwing one out. It needs to be somebody that can help us short-term and long-term.
Thank you. The university announced that it's going to pay $6,000 to every athlete from that lawsuit that was settled. So when you were looking at preferred walk-ons, how valuable is that for you in attracting a better level of preferred walk-on, if there is such a thing?
Yeah, no, it's huge, and I'm so thankful that our university is one of the few to choose to do that for all student athletes. It's fantastic. It's an award that our student athletes earn, because of their performance here at this university. But to be able to present this to players, I know when Chance Miller and Hillary came in and talked to our football team about that, they got a huge ovation from our players because they're so appreciative of it. So to be able to talk about that with potential student athletes as well is just another resource and avenue for us to talk to guys about, to continue. There's so many amazing things about this place already, but to add that to it is a home run for us. And thanks again to our university and our administration for doing that also.